Formula One. It's growing a little bit in the U.S. A lot of it. It's growing a lot of it right now. There's, Drive to Survive obviously has a big part of that. It's brought more viewers to it and more American viewers.
That's how I got onto it for
That's
sure. Did I
same.
show that to you?
Yeah, actually.
I think I did tell
Yeah.
you about it. You may have already seen some of it, but that's what got me into it. It was a great series and
Yeah,
loved it.
and there's things that are exaggerated in it. It's a TV show. But it's always fun to watch. That's where I kind of started watching Formula One, and then have just fallen in love with the sport. Where my wife somehow fell in love with the sport, and we watch it every single race weekend. We try to catch as much as we can. Sometimes it's a little bit harder being an American Formula One fan because most of the stuff is on the other side of the world and
Yeah.
middle of the night. So you got to do a lot of recording and following up. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about this season and kind of your thoughts on it. A lot of it has been what I've shown you and talked to you about. But the biggest surprise for me has been Max Verstappen. We all know how dominant he was. There was no question how dominant Red Bull and how dominant Max Verstappen were going into this season. I didn't expect it to take until this past race weekend that we had for a non-Red Bull winner. And two of those races were Checo. Beyond that, it's been Max Verstappen. And it's not like he's barely winning. It's 20, 30, 40 seconds to the point of there's been several weekends where he has argued with his race engineer to be like, let's get pit stop practice and go for the fastest
Go
lap.
to the soft tires at the end of
And go
the
for the
race.
fastest lap and get an extra
Yep.
point. And it's to the point where there was one race where he was legitimately, because he had just done a pit stop, warming up his tires, just nice and weaving in front of Leclerc. He's like 5 seconds ahead of Leclerc and just weaving. And it's just like, this is a different type of level that I've ever seen in any sport.
Verstappen is obviously a machine, right? If it comes out one day that he's a robot, we'd all be like, yeah, right? That makes sense, And then combine that this year with obviously Red Bull has got their mechanical side and their power drive and all that stuff in tune. And so it's hit an insane level. Sometimes I wish the races were a little bit more exciting and some back and forth, but you have to admire what's going on, right?
Yeah. No,
and by the way, I think I'm wearing
wearing your Red Bull hat.
Yeah, a guy I know went to Austria and picked up this hat for me for the F1 racing.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, that was some good looking out, and that was also the trip that I got the call at 6 in the morning FaceTime
when you were like in the 7.
I don't know, man. It felt like 4. Anyways, I get some FaceTime call, and I know he's over in Europe.
I was in the middle of the Swiss
Alps, and he's FaceTiming me. Look at this, dude, and I'm trying to wipe the eye boogers out of my eyes. It was a pretty awesome trip, but good looking out on that one, dude.
But yeah, was able to go to a Red Bull World store in Austria, get a couple of things from Red Bull. Really cool experience. And obviously today I'm wearing my McLaren hoodie. It is more specifically a Daniel Riccardo hoodie. I know that's very American of me to be a fan of Daniel Riccardo. But I'm so excited to see that guy back on the grid. And obviously, he freaking went and hurt himself like one weekend in. But he is back. He will be back this weekend for Austin. He's been partying in Nashville and stuff like that. So he is all about the Austin race.
He is the person. Even the stretch when he wasn't even in a race car, he was like the personality of the shows and of the what do they call that, the paddock there and the racing area. And
that was the thing, is the amount of times they would show him during the middle of the race, and I was really excited to see him go back to Red Bull this year. I've been kind of hit and miss on a fan of Red Bull. That's neither here nor there, but Red Bull, I think Ricciardo kind of figured out that he should have never left. He's done that a couple times.
Yeah, that's been a full circle thing, right?
Yeah, and then it was something I was hoping for last year, hearing Christian Horner talk about that if he was Alpine, if he was any of these teams looking for a driver, the first person they would go to is Daniel Riccardo. Obviously, I believe Alpine is originally came from Renault, so there was a little bit of bad blood there. And he had talked about, Christian Horner had talked about that Ricciardo was too good of a racer with what was happening with them as a team to, with losing some of their racers, to not bring in Daniel Ricciardo, and because he was extremely successful for them.
And when you first started telling me that Christian Horner was saying these things about him, I was surprised. But Christian Horner is a cold-blooded killer.
Yep.
And if that dude is saying, giving you compliments, especially being with another team out there, you know it's well earned. So, yeah, I was very skeptical at first, but obviously it came true, and that'll be interesting to see what the future holds. So he's on the AlphaTauri.
So he's with AlphaTauri right now. They just signed him for next season. The big question was Liam Lawson came out, raced really well, and there was some concerns. Was Ricciardo now going to lose his seat? Was Yuki Tsunoda going to lose his seat? But AlphaTauri signed both of them for next season. They're both under contract for next season officially now. And Liam Lawson, I believe, is the third driver. I could be wrong there, but cool to see AlphaTauri make that kind of commitment. Obviously, a lot of that is it's Red Bull, right? I'm excited to see Ricciardo. I hope he can make some headway this year. It felt like when they brought him back to Red Bull that they were preparing him to replace Checo.
It looks like that.
And
F1 is
it's a
brutal
weird,
that
weird.
way. It's brutal that way.
But the thing is, it makes sense. And the reason it makes sense is if Ricciardo can get back to any sort of level he was at with Renault or Red Bull, with the way they're at, he's going to be pushing enough to still be giving you guys constructors championships. But he's at a point in his career where he would be comfortable with coming in and understanding Max Verstappen is the guy, and he's not going to try to take that from Max Verstappen. A guy like Checo wants to take over Max Verstappen, which is normal.
Right.
But Ricciardo would come in understanding his role and accepting that and being focused on being the best teammate he could be. He's also somebody who knows how to handle Max as a teammate. They've been teammates before, and ever since he's left, they've become almost closer to where they're extremely close. So
you have to ask yourself, if he had stayed there this whole time, right, would that have ever happened?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. It's
he
weird how
to go get his ass kicked.
That big breakup kind of falling on his face in a few different spots. And we got the Drive to Survive version, which is overly dramatic, and who knows how accurate that stuff was.
But you could see on the track, there was something, he just didn't care anymore.
But I think that because of this, that he now will come in and be a better, even though they're supposed to be teammates and competing against each other and going against each other's job, but he'll be a better support driver there.
He will be similar to what Valtteri Bottas did for Lewis Hamilton in all those championships runs, where there was a lot of times where realistically he just kind of, even though he could push, moved off to the side so that Hamilton could go win it. There was times where he pushed the limit on that. For the most part, was an incredible teammate and didn't necessarily challenge Lewis Hamilton. Red Bull wants that. Christian Horner wants two dominant drivers, but at the end of the day, the most important thing to them is keeping Max Verstappen happy. Yeah. It is at the end of the day. Ricciardo is if he can get back to any sort of form, he is the perfect person for that seat.
Man, that'll be interesting to see. And it really looks like Checo's getting set up to be out again. He's been part of controversies in the past with that.
Yep. So we'll see. That obviously won't come to fruition until next year. About this point, we'll probably start hearing that. I'm really curious to see that. Let's mention McLaren. they're kind of the surprise of the season to me. I thought they were going to be the laughing stock, and to start the year they were, and they kept saying, well, we've got upgrades coming, but everybody says that.
Right.
Everybody, "Oh, we've got upgrades coming. They'll be here," and there was no question Lando Norris, his ability, which by the
Sure.
way, Lando Norris for you guys is my wife's favorite driver. I hope they never meet. I may lose my wife. But there was no question. Even Max Verstappen at the start of this year, he talked about Charles Leclerc, talked about George Russell, and he talked about Lando Norris. That if they had the same car as him, they could give him a run for his money. Now we hadn't really seen that yet from Lando, fully put together. And holy crap, the last 5-6 weekends, he has put it together. But not just him.
Not just Lando, yeah.
McLaren as a whole, Oscar Piastri has blown expectations out of the water.
It's great to see a young guy do that. We were kind of hoping that Logan Sargent would be in that same realm, but we all know that the Williams car isn't going to be able to hang with them. But Oscar Piastri has got the results lately.
Yeah, he has. I mean, I didn't love the way things went down with him last year, but there's no question he can freaking race.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned Logan Sargent. As American fans, it was awesome to hear that there was once again going to be an American on the grid. That was such a cool thing to see, and I think for a lot of people has been disappointing. The way the season's gone out, he's actually, without counting Riccardo, who's raced like 1.5 races, he's the only racer besides Nick DeVries that's raced several races to not get a point. That's hugely disappointing to see. One, he's in a Williams car. As real as that is, he's in a Williams. But two, there was some talk. They knew Logan Sargent wasn't ready. He was a rookie in Formula in F2. He was a rookie there when he did what he did. There was a good amount of knowledge that Logan Sargent was not ready this season. But they wanted him in the seat because they wanted to be able to develop him and not lose the chance to get him in the seat next year. Right. So you take a year of pain and suffering, and if you can be patient with that, you might get something special. You don't know. But as American fans, we got to kind of look back, take a seat back and be patient with this season. And now if next season this time it's the same exact scenario, then it's like, well, freak. But until then, you got to be patient with Logan Sargent. Huge support of Logan Sargent. I want nothing more than for that guy to be successful. I've loved seeing he's put together several race weekends that during practices that he has really seemed to figure it out, and then just hasn't quite clicked yet in qualifying. A couple weekends he's had solid qualifyings, and then the race, just something always happens. But you can see the progress there. You can see the practices that he's starting to put together on the weekends, that he's starting to have really good race weekends up until that point. And so I'm excited to see what he can do to finish the season, hopefully get some points, and then what he can do going into next season and that growth that we'll see. And hopefully he's able to make that next jump.
That'd be great to see, having an American driver in there. And it'd be great for F1 as well. I mean, they have a Canadian driver and a U.S. driver, a Mexican driver, right? Just kind of capturing the different parts of the world. And so, but yeah, we definitely are cheering on Logan Sargent, hoping he gets it. And he's a young kid out of Miami, right? That's where he grew up. Yeah, love to kind of see as much of the content on him that I can find out there.
100%.
And if there's anything you guys want us to discuss and jump on about, whether it's Logan Sargent in particular or F1 or let us know, hit us up.
We got a Las Vegas race coming out soon.
Is that next month?
It's almost exactly a month from today.
Awesome.
And that's going to be incredible right down the strip. So we will be definitely talking more F1 going forward.
Yeah, that'll be insane. I can't wait till that race. It would be unbelievable to be down there. I heard about some of the the charges and requirements that they're making of stores and not stores, just businesses along the raceway
Right.
and stuff, they're insane.
That's going to be an incredible weekend. We got Austin this weekend. That's going to be an incredible weekend too, and hoping for a really exciting return of Daniel Riccardo at his favorite track.
That is his favorite track. I didn't know that one.
Several of them love Austin, but several of them have said Austin's one of their favorite tracks, and Riccardo, it's his favorite track to race at.
It's his favorite track. If you can't tell, I mean, Cole and I kind of got into this about the same time. I'm very much a casual fan. I enjoy it. He's gotten much deeper into it.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of something that we do with our sports viewing schedules, I guess, as we go along.
Yeah.
We dig it.
Let us know what you guys think and what you'd like to hear more about, what sports you may want to hear more about. We are kind of in a little bit the buckets of most of them. But yeah, thanks, guys.